What's funny?
All right, so you don't understand fantasy, but people in the chat will understand that. Before we hopped on right now, so I co-own a team in a league, in our cousins league, with one of my other cousins, and we acquired in a trade DeAndre Hopkins. In exchange, we sent Melvin Gordon, and someone else was trying to get Melvin Gordon or DeAndre Hopkins, and he's like, "Should I get him?" And we're like, "Nah." And I lied to him saying, "Hey, we saw you trying to get in on that, so we just cut in front of you and stole your guy." So he's pissed. He is going on a straight cussing tangent against me. So I love it. I love the trolling. It's fun.
Okay, well, that's great. Look, we're here to talk about the 49ers. Real quick, before we start, is my internet all messed up?
A little bit, yeah. You look a little fuzzy.
Dude, well, thank you very much, Fairfield Inn in Lewisburg, Kentucky. I paid for the fast internet, and I'm not getting it. And I don't really want to do this show if it's going to be all messed up.
It was fine, literally, just before you went on.
I know. It was fine. No, it's not. And I paid for the fast internet on my phone, and I'm not getting it on my laptop, and I'm wondering why I need it. How do I get it on your laptop?
Your voice sounds like you're you're part of like the new Migos album right now. The way you're going on auto-tuning.
Just clipping and stuff. All right, I think we're good now. Let's roll with it. The title of the show is, are the Niners trending up or down? Because, look, on the one hand, they've won 2 in a row. Their offense is rolling. They've just won double-digit games back-to-back. On the other hand, I mean, the list of injured players is astonishing. So let's start with the good, the potential of this team trending upward, and starting with the offense. Do you feel like the offense has finally figured it out?
I think they're starting to. They took a first step in that game. I mean, we talked about last week how good of a defense Carolina is. I thought they would have been I predicted them to go 24 points. So I was off by 6. They scored 30. But at that point, Carolina looked defeated. It was over for those fools. But I think they really have to tap in and see and acknowledge what they did right. So what did they do right? They spread the ball around. That's what I thought. That was my notice point. Look, it wasn't just Debo or die. It was let's do everyone. I love the airplanes around here. It was Debo. It wasn't just Debo die. You got George Kittle involved early, which we talked about last week. Because, what do you got to do, George Kittle? Can we design more? And boom, you get him off the bat. Ayuk a little bit. Juwan Jennings running the football. So, to me, you saw a great complementary football between Jimmy and Kyle. Kyle was calling plays eloquently. Jimmy probably played the best game I've seen out of him since 2019, to be honest. I don't think he played a better game last year than the one this last game. So, on the road against good defense, it's asking a lot for you to keep clicking on both sides with Kyle calling plays like that and Jimmy, but that's really what's going to be done. So they took the first step. It's just about finding that consistency.
Yeah, they're taking lots of steps in the right direction. They're rotating their running backs. They've got a change of pace back. They're getting the ball to use check. I think Kyle's been a little bit vindicated in how he's been using Kittle because Kittle fumbled. I mean, maybe Kittle isn't necessarily a focal point of the passing game anymore. A couple of things they could continue to improve on. But before I get there, I want to say they're actually using Jimmy well. And the whole league knows where the Niners want to call passes for Jimmy. So all of a sudden on third down, you're seeing stuff deep and outside the numbers to tight ends and running backs.
Yep.
So, that's the right move. It's open. I just wonder how long Jimmy can execute that. So what they could continue to do is they need to find a short yardage back. It's not Tevin Coleman. It's not Jeff Wilson Jr. It could be Ty Davis-Price. I think it's Jordan Mason. But you got to find that guy. And then you got to get, Debo isn't having a great year as a wide receiver. He's still great after the catch, but getting him the ball, 9 targets, 2 catches last week, and then Ayuk, 3 catches a game is just not enough. They got to get, I know they're a run-first team, but Ayuk is way too good to be, getting fewer than 5 catches a game. He should be getting at least 5 catches a game. But I feel like they'll figure, he probably is going to go for 10 catches and 150 yards this week, so I'm not really worried about Kyle. I think he's figuring out his best players.
Yeah, and I think watching back the game last night, or just the first half, but Ayuk was open several times again. But, we already know Jimmy leaves stuff on the table. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering where now. So we saw him get Kittle involved early on. If we can get something like that with Ayuk, I mean, I know it's a little easy. You go for play action in the first play. It's an easy little dump off to the side there. But there's plenty of other ways you got to try to figure out how to use Ayuk. Why not hitting him on those little quick slants that you're trying to hit Debo in that first red zone trip that was almost picked. That was probably an RPO though. I'm not sure, but it's more about finding just the rhythm. And I think if Jimmy can develop a trust, giving those, you talk about the Jimmy gimmies. Mm. If you just dart it in him and maybe Jimmy feels that clicking, just a couple of easy throws, it can be just even a screen, just something that's like, okay, I'm hitting Ayuk. I feel confident I can hit him 5-10 more yards now deeper. It's just really if Kyle's going to dial him up and just getting into his helmet saying, Ayuk's going to be open here, Jimmy. You got to have to throw this.
See, that's the thing. I think it's not necessarily Kyle as much as it's Jimmy, right? Like, there are too many clips of Brandon Ayuk being the number one option in the progression, him being open and Jimmy going to the next guy. Like against the Rams.
When he was the whip
right?
route.
Yeah, the whip route, he was wide open. Jimmy's like, no, let me throw to double cover George Kittle over there. And so there's only so much Kyle can do. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why Jimmy's so hesitant to throw to Ayuk, because when they traded for Emmanuel Sanders, Jimmy was throwing him a ton of balls right away. And then when they brought in Ayuk, he was here to replace Sanders' exact role and runs a lot of the same routes. And all of a sudden, Jimmy's like, no. It's crazy because, I mean, he's better than Emmanuel Sanders and he's open. I just don't understand that.
Yeah, I'm gonna push back a little bit on the Kyle can't do anything. Yeah, he can't on the field, but you can get literally in his ear like, Jimmy, it's gonna be open. Throw it to him. He does it with other receivers. He tells them to do it with. I mean, look, I think he's doing it with Deebo Samuel. That's why he's forcing in some of those throws. I mean, look, you see the targets he's throwing to Deebo. I feel like when Jimmy throws to Deebo, that's when he gets his most pickable throws versus anyone else. I mean, it's all over the place with Jimmy when he does have those.
But you know Jimmy loves throwing to Deebo. Who wouldn't? But last week, like to your point, the script was all about Kittle, which is cool. Now I feel like this script should be all about Ayuk. You know,
and that's good because you want to get those guys early on because you get the defense thinking, okay, they're actually going to get Kittle involved this game.
Right.
Because if you don't do it early on, look, how many times do your coaches and players say, set the tone. It's great. You do that with your running game, but they know that's coming. You're not utilizing Kittle. You're not utilizing Ayuk as much as you should. They don't think that's coming. It's like Deebo. And I think that was the consensus from that Carolina defense. Like, we know you're going to run the football, and it's going to be Deebo. Try something else. And to your point, that's why those pushing the ball, the few times Jimmy pushed the ball downfield, it was pretty solid out of him. And he was even throwing with some anticipation here and there. So I think that's where you got to try to figure out if you're Kyle. It's like, I got to figure out what this defense is going to key in on. And it seems pretty much almost typical. It's going to be the running game in Deebo.
One thing that kills me about Kyle, he says he doesn't watch the Bill Walsh tapes. Maybe this wasn't on the tape, but what Bill Walsh liked to do was to get each of his playmakers a touch in the first quarter. Maybe not in the first drive, but just it's the same thing in basketball. You want to get your guys shots early so they're in the flow of the game. And I feel like he does a bad job of that with Ayuk. I mean, in this last game, I don't think he got the ball for a while. Maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like there was a whole wide receiver drought going on long into this game. I know the other team had good cornerbacks, but he should be in the script. You should have plays and touches schemed up for all your guys so they get involved early. Ayuk seems like he's young, and if you get him involved early, he might take over. But if he doesn't get the ball to the second quarter, he may feel like it's not his, game. Just saying.
Yeah,
just trying to help.
I think the same thing why we blame Kyle for some of the offensive woes. It's like, well, they're not executing right, so it's on the players. It's like, yeah, well, are they? It's kind of Kyle's fault. He's not playing. He's running the plays that they're not executing. So it's the same thing with Ayuk. He's not installing into the game script or just game or plays that he's going to take to game day that involves Ayuk. So it's almost like you're kind of limiting yourself to a degree. And maybe he just takes like plays that weren't even on his sheet and just calls it, which isn't far-fetched, but I mean, I don't think it's common. It's just, what are you doing to get these guys involved? Because if you get, the more you spread it around, I think there's definitely a correlation as to why Jimmy played well is because you spread it around all over the offense. You use all points of the field horizontally, you went vertical, you ran it, you used all types of talents. And to me, it's not totally a surprise why Jimmy played as well as he did.
Yup. Joey Mellons says, great video with your dad yesterday. Great to hear you using the fan money for good. Keep being a real one, Grant. Thank you, Joey.
He's using that money to another 49ers tattoo.
King Linner says, hey, Grant, after watching Brett practice today, when do you expect him to return? Not this week.
Not against KC either. Don't do that.
But like, if they don't activate him after the 3 week, I think they'll use the entire 3 week practice window, and then he'll come back, and then he probably won't even be ready then. I'm thinking after the bye week.
That'd be smart. Give him more time.
After the bye week.
Use as much as you can to get this guy up to speed because he is very, very a sensitive body, and you can't. At this point, now that Mosley's gone, you can't afford to lose him.
Also, the Niners are not desperate. They're in first place in their division. Their division sucks. They got another winnable game coming up. Like, they're probably going to lose to Kansas City one way or another, although they could win. But, I mean, they're in a good spot. Like, they have no must-win games coming up on their schedule. Like, what they need is Jason Verrett healthy down the stretch in the playoffs. If they get that, they can win the Super Bowl. So, no reason to rush them back for a game in October.
Especially not against the Falcons. And it's like, you don't need them to beat the Falcons. Falcons have no offensive skill power. They got Drake London,
Zero.
but you should be fine with Charvarius Ward or whatever you're scheming around. And then even Kansas City, they don't have wide receivers either. I mean, you got Patrick Mahomes who makes them into better wide receivers. Yeah, it's better to play. You're better doing the bigger picture thing with Jason Verrett than just hey, we're desperate. Matty Moses is gone. Go get it in there, Jason. And then he gets hurt or gets gimpy again. That's the last thing you want.
That's right. Callie Trummer says, do you think Jimmy targets certain wide receivers whether they're open or not? Seems as if there's something else at play here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, like
Hell
Kittle
yeah.
can be totally blanketed. Tevin Coleman totally blanketed down the field. But Brandon Ayuk, like, oh, you had 5 feet of separation. That's just not enough. Sorry.
Debo could be on the sideline on a break drinking water, and Jimmy will still say, "Here you go, Debo." That's how much he wants to force feed it to these guys.
Yep, but Brandon is like, dude, sorry, maybe next week. All right, so the offense definitely is trending the right direction because Kyle Shanahan is doing what he always does. It takes him a while, but he figures out his best players and how to use them, and he's getting there right now. But the defense is the number 1 defense in the league, but they haven't faced a good offense yet, and they have an insane amount of injuries, including, I mean, it's Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, Samson Ebukam, Azeez Al-Shaair, Jimmy Ward, Emmanuel Mosley. Like, that's almost the whole defense.
I was about to say, you can field the whole defense with that. With how many players?
The only guys I didn't mention are Talanoa Hufanga, Travarius Ward, Dre Greenlaw, and Fred Warner. 4 guys. So the other 7 are injured. At what point? I mean, is this defense in danger of unraveling due to injuries?
You have to be concerned a little bit for sure. At the very least, a little bit. The injury. Look, it's proven they're doing fine without Azeez. Great, because they're able to bring down Talanoa and he's filling in freaking the guy's Spider-Man the way he can cover his ground. Defensive line depth has looked great, but it's now looking like it's going to start unraveling with Emmanuel Mosley gone because I don't think they have a corner out there unless Brett comes back fully fit and can even come close to what he was in 2020. You're going to have an issue there, whether it's Ambry out there, Diamador, it's going to be an issue because we saw it last year how good the defense was. It was just the secondary was always a liability, whether the player was getting beat or he was committing penalties. And now with Bosa gone, like, you don't really need to understand like how much of a loss he is. But the first game against Atlanta, they should be able to handle it. It's like the future games, like the Kansas City games, the Chargers games are coming, Rams again, where it's like, okay, that defense that punked the Rams, it's going to be a lot of the armor is going to be unsheathed because all your key players are gone. And at some point, the dam's going to break with all these players gone.
Yeah, but it's like they got Atlanta this week, Kansas City next week, and then the Rams after that, and then the bye week?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay, so like if they go 2-1 over the next 3 games,
solid.
That's solid, it's acceptable, and it's most likely. So what you really need is to survive the next 3 games, go 2-1, which I think they can do, and then get a lot of these guys back. Emmanuel Mosley's not coming back. Jimmy Ward is. Nick Bosa is. Javon Kinlaw should. Eric Armstead should. Ebukam should. So it's not. I mean, it's not all bad. It's not like we have had. It's like 2020 when it was like season ender.
Yeah.
No, the guys could come back, and the Niners do have some winnable games coming up, one way or another. So.
I think circling back to our first topic, this is why it's good that the offense is starting to figure out because that Carolina game, that was like the most complimentary football we saw all season. You had both sides, the defense playing dominant as usual, although they let up their most allowed points, 15, boo-hoo. But you had the offense actually like picking up their own weight. And this is what was always my concern is like you can't – it was necessary for the defense to be as elite as they've been because the offense was riding their coattails. But this is why you wanted the offense to start to – figure out and soon because the sooner the better, right? I know it's a long season, but at some point, if the injuries kicked in or if the defense couldn't sustain itself for whatever reason, if they had a game where someone actually punched them in the mouth and it was going to be a long haul for them, you want the offense to pick it up. So by then actually picking it up, it's only going to help the defense more, especially if they're able to put up points.
Right, and these next few games where all the backups are going to get opportunities going to help the defense too because it'll make their depth even better. But I am kind of curious to see how certain backups perform. Like Ambry Thomas, is he going to play? Kyle didn't ruin him today, but he was very blunt. Someone said, he played a lot last year, and then now he doesn't. What happened? He was like, well, the other guys passed him up, which to me is a coach saying he didn't. Maybe he thought he had proven something in those few games, and he didn't take the offseason as seriously as his teammates did. And now that's what he said. He pulled a Dante Pettis, right? Is that it was essentially what he said. I don't know if you heard it.
Honestly, I didn't hear it, but I was looking at the transcript.
Yeah.
However, I remembered going into training camp, there was a conference where someone asked him about Ambry or the corners, whatever, both Diamador and him, and he says like like something about, maybe it was D'Amico Ryans. Either way, it was something about like, yeah, his body's more built or he looks better in shape. I just want to see him getting it on the field. That's literally all they said. Like, good, you did the physical part. Now let's see the on-field part and see if it translates. And it seems like they weren't impressed at all. And we saw it on training camp. We saw it in preseason. It looked like he was the same, if not worse. So I'm not sure how much you can really put his faith in him. That's why I'm a little scared. That's where the defense really is going to miss Mosley the most, because he was playing at a Pro Bowl level. Both these corners were. I mean, I don't think that's hyperbole to say either.
No, they were both great. Ambry was so bad in training camp that like a good day for him was only getting beat in front, not over the top. He gave up so many long plays over the top. And I remember asking Unlin, the DB coach, one day what he thought of Ambry, and he was trying to say something nice. He didn't give up any balls over the top today. I was like, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if you can play that guy, if that's what he's going to be doing. In which case, what they could do is move Lenore out there, or it's going to be interesting to see. And if you got to do this against any team, it's best to do it against the Falcons. But the week after, against the Chiefs, the Niners are in danger. I mean, they could give up. This is a great defense. They could give up a lot of points against the Chiefs because I don't even know who their starting corner. I mean, you don't have to go after Charvarius Ward if you got Diamador, Lenore, and Sam Olmec on the field. Why would you ever go after Charvarius Ward?
Mm-hmm. I think that's where it really is going to come really critical in how D'Amico Ryans, and I have no doubt he'll be able to get some semblance of making this defense still bridge the gap as much as possible with Mosley back. But you can only do so much with Ambry out there, and I just wonder who else is going to put up there. I had thrown out there like Dante Johnson because he can play, he can come up. And he wasn't terrible in coverage last year. But I think it's going to probably...
Honestly, that might be their best call, Dante Johnson.
That's why I thought...
Because you know what to expect, right?
You know what to expect. You know for sure he's not afraid and can play run support on the edge. And
yeah,
that's something
seriously.
That's why I wrote that article last week about why D'Amico Ryans. I was like, that was a hell of a comment from him. It's like,
yeah,
the fact that he's like, yeah, their coverage is superb, but what I love the most is they're manning the edge. They can come up. So to me, it's like he said that to me, that's giving me more freedom as a play caller. I was like, whoa, okay. So pretty much they really want the really perfect corner who's not just covering, but we want the guy to come up because it gives me so much. So to me,
because they do not want to be a finesse team. They want to be a physical team.
Average coverage and can come up. Can Ambry do either of them at an average level? I don't know.
No.
You're probably better off putting Womack and Lenore and figuring out between who's going to be inside out.
Just as long as it's not Josh Norman, I'm cool. Sorry, Josh. Nothing
is he
personal.
What is he even doing?
It's over.
Now? I think he's on a good
I think he's done. How come Josh Norman? Remember, so Richard Sherman gets to be an analyst. Can you imagine if Josh Norman was a football analyst? After everything, could be like, what? He used to say some stuff that sounded deep, but if you really thought about it, it was like, I have no idea what he was talking about. I don't know.
It all went to hell when
it all went over my head. Zachary says Jennings was supposed to be a run blocking wide receiver. He is a good run blocking wide receiver, but he actually is. I mean, he was their second. Him and Juszczyk was the second half offense last week. I think that the touchdown drives happened because Jennings extended him. Mm-hmm. So he's really important. Good player. I didn't see it when he's like ran a 4.7. I was like, what is going on?
I mean,
yeah.
He's a 7th round pick. I mean, who the hell is going to have like expectations as a guy? If any, the fact that he's gone this far, he's already a huge win for the 49ers. What he's done already. True.
But usually when you take a guy that late, you're like betting on traits, and the Niners are definitely not. They're looking for physicality and violence and all that, and they spotted it with this guy. I'd almost compare him to Anquan Bolden, but they're different because Bolden didn't have any finesse to his game. He would just like body people up, box them out, and run them over. This guy's a good route runner.
Yeah, he's actually. Remember, Charvarius Ward in OTAs, he's like, the one who surprised me the most was Juwan Jennings. So I was like, okay, Charvarius, you're a good corner. You know what you're talking about. Let me actually see. And he was right. He was right.
He was absolutely right. Kyle Green says, always love your show. Thank you. Random question. Do you know what color our fans are going to invade ATL with? I don't know if I should go red jersey or white. Dude, just because.
No, go white. Go white. You're going to blend in too much. I'm going to be there. Obviously, Grant. I'm not with Grant up there, but me and my cousins and uncle are going to be there. I would say go white. Go throwback white because that's the cleanest one. Don't go red because it looks too much like Atlanta home jersey.
Okay, so there's so many Niner fans and there are no Panther fans. And seriously, no Panther fans showing their face. So after the game, I was at the stadium for a while, and then I wanted to go get a drink at a bar while I put up my videos instead of going back to the hotel right away. So I found like the one bar that was open in Charlotte. Charlotte goes to sleep early on a Sunday. Jesus. And it was a dive bar, and a bunch of Niner fans were like coming in after me. So I sat down, and they came in, and like Niner fans that have been drinking at games, been drinking for like 12 hours. So a lot of them like can't really talk straight, and they're like Niner, and the guy, the bartender's so funny. He goes, "Oh no." I was like, "Sorry, but oh no." I was like, "Yep, that's right. Niners drink free." I was like, "Hey, buddy, have a good time." Anyway.
God, I'm pretty sure that's gonna be my cousins and uncle after the game. I'm like, get off me! I'm trying to do work.
Oh no! King Leonard says Casey scoring more than 24 next week. I don't know. We got to see who's healthy, right? Let's see who's healthy. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. I feel like the Niners were in a great spot to shut KC out, not out, but down if they had Jimmy Ward and Mosley, because Jimmy Ward can do a good job against Kelsey. Like, I feel like no one could do a better job against Kelsey than Ward. So at least they could match up. Now they can't match up like that. So I don't know. See what they got. Although he could play with a cast on his hand. They haven't ruled that out.
Probably a little early.
Callie Tremor says Shanahan and Ryans need to put both sides of the ball in heavy rotation with the players that are just coming off injuries. Appreciate your dedication to your craft. You and your guests are very straightforward. Thank you. Yeah, when you bring in these guys back, they're not in football shape. Try to ease them in. I don't understand.
Yeah, don't throw them in the deep side of the pool. Put them in like the 4-foot end where they can stand up and like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit more. That's right. After a game or two, then you chuck them in the deep end and be like, all right, man, sink or swim. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Here's a floaty.
And now you're in football shape. Yeah, I mean, that's what they did with Kittle, right? So he missed the first 2 games. Then he didn't get a lot of balls in the next 2 games. Then all of a sudden, everyone's mad about it. In week 3, he's like all up and down the script. So makes sense. That was smart. Okay, I have a question for you. Is Jeff Wilson Jr. a top 10 running back? Before you scoff at the question, I'm just going to put some stats out there. Stats don't point the whole picture, but here's why I'm asking. Let's take away last year, which was a wash year. He was hurt the whole year. If you take 2020 and this year, 5 years this year, he played 12 games in 2020. That's 17 games. That's a season. He's got 12 touchdowns, about a little under 1,200 yards from scrimmage, average about 4.9 yards per carry. Those are respectable numbers. What do you think? Is he knocking on the door?
This season, yeah. Because I'm looking around the league, like what running backs? I feel like the running backs has really dwindled this year. Even the top end ones that we're used to seeing, like Dalvin Cook, only like a game or good.
Yeah, he's having a tough time.
Christian McCaffrey, but
just saw him.
Really, yeah. The only ones I know they're like absolutes right now is obviously Nick Chubb.
Yep.
Josh Jacobs now after that last.
For sure.
Game. Not saying top 5, but maybe he might be top 5. Leonard Fournette because he can do both. Mm. Not even Jonathan Taylor's doing good. So, I mean, shoot, there's a lot of – so this year, hell yeah. And there's probably a case you can even make for top 8 if you really want to, like, dive into it. But, yeah, this year it's like no one's running as well, and that's a huge credence to me about what the blocking is doing because there was one play in that first quarter, I believe. I think it was the Jeff Wilson one where you ripped it off for like 30 where I swear you could have ran a car through that lane, dude. Yeah. It was so wide open. So you get a – I'm not going to blame him for not taking advantage of that. I'm not going to take away points, but hey, he's playing running the ball sweet. And sure, he's not being utilized as the pass blocker, but look, the way they're staying afloat after that first week 1 game, you owe an apology because he looks slow. It looks like
dude, I feel so bad for saying that. It was 1 game. They were in the rain. I was so wrong, Jeff. I'm so sorry. But I want to say what I love. He's a really good player. I wrote him off way too soon. It was off. I was wrong. What I like about him so far this year, his 2 touchdown runs, both came from like 30 yards out.
Nasty.
And while he did have big holes, he had to spot the cutback. Like both were right, like quick cutbacks in the backfield. It was like, oh, okay. I mean, good vision and good, like wasn't indecisive at all. And then in the open field, didn't try to like slow down, make a move. He's just running right to like, just running by people. I didn't know he was this fast. I had no idea. He's really good. See, to the point where when Elijah Mitchell comes back, you can't just put this guy back for like 4 carries a game. He's way too good for that. You got to give him. You got to give him at least 10 carries a game, no matter what.
Go back to the 2019 script, man. Give somebody like I'm not even sure. Look, we talked about that last question about the slow rotation. Mitchell needs to be the 8 to 10 carry guy when he comes back because he's injury prone. Like, I think it's official. He's got that label now. Where Jeff Wilson, look, that guy's not only just has explosiveness, which again too, I didn't even think that. I thought he was a good runner and you wrote him off quickly, but I did not see him have that explosive, that huge straight to the end zone ability. I thought it was more so it'd be a solid, like, all right, like a big run for him would be like 10 to 15. Not 20.
He's more explosive than Mitchell. Mitchell didn't have these long runs last year.
No,
maybe not. He really didn't though. He didn't have that many. Yeah.
I think if Wilson has better vision, I think
so. I don't know. They're both good. They're both really good.
Just use them.
Here's my question for you. Has he taken his game to another level, or has he always been good and has he sort of been a victim of roster politics? I mean, to me, he was pretty good in 2019 when they went to the Super Bowl, but he was caught behind Tevin Coleman. Like, what if he had been actually getting some real playing time back then?
I think he's always been this good. Probably got a little better, but I think he's always been this good. And I thought it became clear after that Patriots game because, look, that Patriots defense, especially team, might have been like on their down year. But look, that defense is always going to put on a show, put on a clinic against an offense, no matter who, because Bill Belichick doesn't play. That defense will look and do something against you to hold you up for as long as you can, and they're fairly stout for the most part. And Jeff Wilson just ran all over them. So I don't think this is a fluke. He's definitely probably gotten a little bit better, but I think now what we're seeing is he's getting opportunities. I mean, he's definitely improved. Where Talon, like it's almost like the Talon Fung of last year, where it's like, look, he was kind of skeptical last year in his opportunities, but he's definitely was a clear cut. I got better. And I'm getting helped. Whereas Jeff Wilson didn't really get like the opportunities.
I think his story's great. He went to a little school. He was undrafted. The Niners had him on their practice squad. They cut him multiple times after training camp and after good preseasons. No one else saw the talent. He kept latching on. He was better than people ahead of him on this depth chart for years. He hung around. They drafted Trey Sermon last year. They drafted Ty Davis Price this year. If they really were sold on Jeff Wilson, they wouldn't have done that. And all of a sudden, he's the last man standing. And he's really freaking good. And it's like, man, he might have been this good the whole time. I don't know. I think it's a great story. It's a hell of a story. I hope he gets to go to a Pro Bowl or something.
I just hope when, like we just said, Mitchell comes back, Kyle, please do not heavily use Mitchell off the bat. Just incorporate it. Use the two.
Yeah.
Your offense, like, here's the thing. If you're a good coach, you use all of your good players. You just don't you just don't look at it like a piece of pie and say, I'm going to use this sliver and forget the rest. Like, no, you got to use the whole thing, man. Like you did the last game. That's why I thought everything came together. You have to use all your players. We talked about it before. What is this secret weapon for this offense? Last year it was Debo, and we're like, there's no one this year. So what's going to happen? Use all your players, because we continually talk about how talented this offense is, but wouldn't you want to use them all to a degree, even if it's just like a couple of looks?
Also, the name of the game this year for the Niners is not bringing back people too early and football shape. Like with Elijah Mitchell, you got to remember he wasn't there for OTAs and minicamp. He was coming off surgery. Then he got to training camp, played for like 2 weeks, got hurt, came back week 1, got hurt. So he's not in football shape and probably never will be this year. So next year he could lead the league in rushing next year, but this year it's Jeff Wilson's backfield, and this guy's only coming in to contribute if he's 100% healthy, because he won't be in football shape.
Like if Jeff Wilson comes off a huge 10 to 20 plus yard run, okay, cool. Mitchell's fresh. Get in there. We'll just keep ramming that defense and make them tap out. J55F100 says, Grant, my dude, you need to get the dude who did Croc's intro to do yours. Oh, mine isn't obnoxious enough for you? And where is Vish? Vish is on Twitter. Vish is on YouTube. You got to check him out. Vish has got his own channel now, and you can give him super chats and put money directly in his pocket, which he deserves because he does a great job. Make sure you follow him on YouTube and Twitter. David Velez says, do you know what the 49ers record is when Bosa and Debo play? You mentioned it once a while ago, and it was astronomically high when they both play. No, but that's something I should look up. David. He did. I think you have mentioned it, like, when Debo.
I have.
Like, or I don't know if it's playing. I think it was when he gets certain amount of carries or targets or some usage or something.
I don't know, but David, I will look that up, and I'm going live with Jesse in a few hours, so I'll address that at that time. Thank you for your patience. Sean Green says, I know Niners need blocking, but they ever gonna use Kittle like we did with VD in the 2012 playoffs, 2013 season? It's frustrating with his salary usage. I mean, did you see him this week? It's kind of hard to knock Kyle's usage when they featured him and he fumbled. He's averaging 3 yards after the catch per reception this year. That's not Kittle. He used to be 9, 10. He's not a yak bro this year. He's not. He's just a bro.
Last week, when we were talking about Kittle's usage, like what was the issue? What's the deal?
I think we see it.
And I thought, look, and him bringing up Vernon Davis just reminds me. It makes me even think I was more right and not just floating it out. He doesn't think Kittle's that great of a route runner or receiver. He's a good one, but he's not that great. And it looks like he's dialed it back with injuries. And if we're talking about, we shouldn't even mention Vernon Davis as George Kittle in the same breath as a receiver, because Vernon Davis was light years. Kittle's a sweet all-around player, but come on, they're not the same way as impactful as a receiving.
Kittle was better after the catch. Vernon Davis was never good after the catch, but he was way faster.
Better route runner.
I mean, well, he was kind of a terrible route runner.
Yeah, he would round out some of it, but
he would round out some of the routes. But he had his speed was crazy. He legit had 4.3 speed. Kittle was just really explosive and quick. His stop-start, you could throw screens. Who throws screens to a tight end? You could do that stuff with him. Not anymore. Not anymore. He's not a threat. I mean, honestly, when he starts running after the catch, I'm thinking, fumble. Like, he's going to get tagged. He's not making anyone miss. He has 0 broken tackles this year. Debo just totally took his role in the offense. What Kittle used to do, Debo does now. You can't call him a yak bro anymore. I'm sorry. You got to break 1 tackle to be in the club. You got to read 1 Dr. Seuss book. You got to read 1 page of a Harry Potter. I'm just kidding.
Play action that hasn't been there, like I said last week too, it wasn't there. Look, the first play they got him on play action. I was like, well, play action is going to Kittle. And he didn't shake off that defender.
No. James says, how do we stop future Hall of Fame Cordell Patterson? He's hurt. Yeah, that's how you stop. He's on IR.
They got Caleb Huntley, a rookie, undrafted rookie. They got
someone
Tyler
else.
Allegre.
Allegre is how you pronounce his name. That's cool. I was wondering. Trey Niner says, Grant, I'm throwing this idea out there now because I think it's a smart move. Niners need to franchise tag Jimmy and then trade him. No, you can't. There is no franchise tagging allowed in his restructured contract. Not allowed. So let's talk about that. I know we want to stay in the moment. My dad doesn't like when we talk about hypotheticals and in the future, but he's not on the show today. It's my show. So look, you'd be lying if you would say that your mind hasn't at least gone to this question, because Jimmy's a starter, Trey's hurt. The season is interesting, but what's going to go on next year? Who will be the starting quarterback next year for the 49ers? Jose?
It's still going to be Trey, dude. It has to be Trey. But I think where it gets interesting now is if we see the Jimmy that we saw in this last game, and it's a huge if, because that's what makes Jimmy the most ultimate average player. Is he'll have those moments and then he'll completely flip it like the next game or two or whatever. And we know the whole spiel. But if he has a handful more games like that, and when they get to the playoffs, he shows up in that way and actually does something, even if they don't get to the Super Bowl.
It could be him.
We have a huge debate on our hands now. And the 49ers, when they got pissy last training camp about all the questions about Trey Lance and everything, the competition, and then it happened again this year, it's going to be one-upped again next year. And I'm all for it because it's fun. It's funny to talk about. And I mean, look, they created it. They shouldn't get mad at you, at anybody, a fan, whatever, because you're creating it. You brought him back this year. You tried to trade last year, and now it's like, well, now what? Now what?
Okay, let's go through it systematically together. There is a possibility that the starting quarterback next year is Jimmy Garoppolo. It seems to me for that to happen, he would have to really play well in the playoffs and or win the Super Bowl. If he does that, the Niners would have to give him another huge contract, and I'm sure he'd love to have it. Although it's a strained relationship between them, and if multiple teams are offering him a lot of money, then who knows? But come on, I don't really see that happening. So what's more likely is he does a repeat, plays well in the regular season, gets to the playoffs, kind of starts struggling, and they don't make it all the way, in which case I don't see him coming back because I don't think he wants to be here. I think he wants to leave, and I think the Niners want to replace him. So let's go to Trey.
Spicy.
Let's go to Trey. Jimmy leaves. The Niners get close but don't make it all the way, hypothetically. Jimmy leaves. Trey. We're back to Trey. Trey is now in a position where he hasn't played in 3 years, coming off a serious injury, and this team is still knocking on the door. It's not that simple because he hasn't spent any time developing in the ways he needs to develop. He may not be ready, quote unquote. He missed a precious year. It's possible the answer is neither of these two guys. Okay, so let's explore that. Who are some guys who could unseat Trey and Jimmy? You'd have to have someone legit. One name that pops into my mind is Tom Brady. Okay, so let's talk about Tom Brady. He was supposed to retire this year, didn't. Now he's going to potentially have a divorce. It seems like he could play football as long as he wants now. He'll be a free agent next year. He already expressed the desire to come back to the Bay where he grew up. And the Niners really messed up. Now, and they know it. You think they'll make that mistake twice? I think there is a legit possibility that Tom Brady is a starting quarterback here next year. I do. Tom. And that way you could get look, hey, Trey Lance, nothing against you, but now Tom's the starter for year to year, and you still need some time to learn, and you can learn from Tom as opposed to Jimmy, and I don't see how anyone could complain about that. Now here's another scenario that's not nearly as exciting. Let's say Tom Brady does retire and doesn't want to go past 45.
Goes to Miami, becomes owner.
Yeah, or whatever, something like that. Kyle could turn to Kirk Cousins, and say, look. Let's say Kyle doesn't win the Super Bowl this year, and management's like, look, dude, you're 7. You're gonna have to win the Super Bowl this year. And he's like, okay, well, if you're gonna up the ante on me, you got to give me the quarterback I've wanted the entire time. I've always wanted this guy. So. That's another guy. And then possibly Aaron Rodgers if he opts out. Although Aaron Rodgers and Kyle Shanahan trying to coexist and share power is just, I can't see that happening. But those are 3 names. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the most entertainable one would be the Brady one because they're not trading for. I don't even think Kirk's gonna be a free agent, so I don't think.
If they got Kirk, do you understand how pissed like that? It'd be one thing if the Niners had traded for Mac Jones, but trading for Kirk Cousins and potentially trading Trey Lance to get him would. I think the fan. I don't think Jed York would let it happen because the fans would hate it universally.
Yeah,
universally they hate it.
You would only be able to work on a free agency invitation and signing to Thomas Brady. That would be the only way at work. And so far, he's playing good again this year.
It seems like the fan base vetoed Mac Jones, so they could probably veto Kirk Cousins too. But no one's going to veto Tom Brady. I wouldn't either. I like Trey a lot, but dude, it's Tom Brady. Go get that 6th ring. Are you kidding? They should have had him 3 years ago. 2 years ago.
I think, look, in terms of options, I think that's the only way you're going to go if we're not looking at neither. Because other than that, I thought the only thing that would be the way it's looking is Jimmy goes wherever the hell he's going to go in the offseason. You go with Trey, and then you get Matt Ryan as your backup next year because he's backup talent. He's backup caliber now. He's not a starter in this league anymore. Yeah. So, but in terms of like the GOAT, that would be the only option I would see. And I did think about that, or I thought about it another time too, because now that the divorce is gone, it's like, look, his future is endless now. So unless he's going back to reinvigorate himself with the Dolphins to go back over there. But the way, Tua's going, he's going to go with Mike McDaniels. Yeah. That's probably like kind of down the river now at that point. So I think that 49ers one would be the one. He's going to get a firsthand look at what that team is. If the defense puts the clamps on him in 2 months, a month, whatever, then it's going to be in his mind. Don't think it won't be in his mind.
If Kyle wins the Super Bowl this year, he can do whatever he wants. He could start Trey. He could start Jimmy. He could do whatever he wants. He'll have a job for life with the 49ers. But if he doesn't, I know people say he has job security, but look around the league. He's in year 6. Every coach who's in year 7 or higher has won a Super Bowl. Every single one. And there's another coach who's in year 6 right now. It's Sean McDermott. Don't kid yourself and think that he's not under pressure. If he doesn't win the Super Bowl this year with Buffalo, people are going to be looking at him like, dude, what happened? Again? Because they didn't even win a playoff game last year. So he has pressure too, and he has a great quarterback. People start saying, maybe we need to get an offensive coach. So Kyle, McDermott, they know the deal. And McDermott has Josh Allen to lean on. Kyle has Trey, who has played nothing in the last 3 years. That's scary. It's scary. So Tom Brady, come save my job. It just can't be Kirk Cousins. Can't be Kirk. I know. I'm sorry. If Kyle wants to work with Kirk Cousins, it has to happen on another franchise, not here. You guys got to go start over somewhere else.
I wish you had brought up that picture where they're both looking at each other all friendly and just pulled it up right now. That would have been great. Instead of saying, like here's the other person. Click.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Big Tone 707 says, I hope he didn't say Vernon Davis was a better route runner. Quit talking about football now. Yeah, he was a great athlete who could only run straight. No, he said he rounded off his routes. That's true. He said it. James Hennessy.
I just think he's a better overall receiver. I would take him in the receiver as a heartbeat. I think anyone would. And he's still not a better overall 49ers tight end all time yet.
All I'm going to say is Vernon Davis took over playoff games. George Kittle has never had a good playoff game. Not once.
Look, all the intangibles, the blocking and stuff like that, like, are you making an impact in your offense? And overall,
Vernon could block
points. It's great he blocks and contributes to that, but there's other players blocking too. It's not just Kittle.
Vernon could block. Vernon just didn't get as much fanfare about it. Vernon he just didn't have Pro Football Focus making a big deal, giving him a number value. Vernon was super duper strong. I mean, everything Kittle was as an athlete, Vernon was that plus. I'm sorry. James Hennessy says, don't make the Joe Flacco mistake the Ravens did. Yeah, like even if Jimmy Garoppolo wins the Super Bowl, that doesn't mean you give him the contract. Like that's what the Ravens did, and it set him back for years. All that means if they win the Super Bowl with Kyle is that he gets another extension, he has job security, and really that might even be good for Trey because his coach can do whatever he wants. His coach can say what he has no pressure.
He might feel satisfied he finally got one, so it's like now he feels like, okay, I finally got one, so now I can feel a little more patience because he's in a rush to win one.
Yeah, absolutely. Aaron Rodgers says Cali Tremors. I mean, possible. They've been trying to work that out, but they haven't been able to. Varg, thank you very much. All right, we got one more before my internet craps out. And I got to go to the front desk and be like, yo, how do I get the fast? Because when you go to the Marriott's, they're like, if you want fast, you got to pay $5. I'm like, yeah, I want the fast, $5. So I only got it on my phone. What? It's whack. They should be able to do that from the front desk, right? Hey, because I got 2 devices in here. See, look at happening again.
I was going to say, I think they hear you talking, and they did that.
They're like, oh, look, he's talking shit. All right, here we go.
Click.
Yeah.
No problem, buddy.
So no one in the world expects the Niners to lose to the Atlanta Falcons. Why?
Because the Falcons' offense is not great. Although, here's the thing. I have more respect for the Falcons than I do for the Panthers. And that's only because Marcus Mariota can run. And we all know how 49ers defense always has that kryptonite against running quarterbacks. I mean, we saw that's great as they played against the Bears. Justin Fields was running like a backyard. I mean, like a school kid in the blacktop, just chucking it on them a couple times. So that's the number one concern I would have. That is why I think and plus the Falcons all year long, they've been scrappy. I've actually watched a lot of their games, even against the Bucs last week. They held their own pretty well. I mean, it was boring, but look, they held their own against the Bucs on either side of the ball. That says a lot. So you're the 49ers. You can't overlook this team. I don't think it's going to be the same routing as they did against the Panthers because I just think they're more buttoned up operation. And then Arthur Smith versus Matt Rule, come on. So I think those are the factors you got here. The defense is not as terrible as it looks. Marcus Mariota element and Arthur Smith versus Matt Rule. I think the Niners should win and will win, but it's going to be more scrappier than I think.
I think it's going to be ugly. I think the Niners are going to destroy this team. I don't know. I just feel like, so on offense, they can run the ball, but like when it's time to throw, it's Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Like Drake London is a rookie, and like when targeted when Marcus Mariota targets him, his quarterback rating is like 73, and then when he targets Pitts, his quarterback rating 60 something. So I just feel like this passing game doesn't work, and this I mean maybe the Niners DBs are maybe the D is so banged up that they'll give up some points, but I just don't think they have enough.
I guess the Browns, there was a drive where they just ran the ball a whole time. I think it was like 12 runs, and I was like,
Atlanta?
49ers Rams.
Yeah. Okay, all right, fair enough. Maybe the Niners won't blow them out, but here's the thing: they're staying in West Virginia. The Niners are 8-1 on these like back-to-back road trips when they stay out here. So it seems like they're actually really locked in on these things. What's interesting is when they go back after these extended trips on the road on the East Coast, they're 1-3 in the game following that. And the one win was in 2019 against Pittsburgh when they turned the ball over 5 times, which shows you how sloppy they were. That's the one time they won. So what's interesting is, they should probably beat the Falcons this week, but they're going to be so jet lagged coming back to the West Coast after that. They probably won't feel like themselves until Thursday or Friday. And then they got to play the Kansas City Chiefs. So, and if you don't believe me, I was just talking to my wife who spent the whole weekend with me on the East Coast. She's back there. She's still exhausted. And it's Wednesday. Still exhausted. So I think probably by tomorrow she'll feel like herself. And then she has to fly out and meet me in Atlanta. So she's going to, that's why they don't do that. That's why they stay in West Virginia. But it's legit. Like they're going to be so tired next week. And then they have Kansas City. So that's why I say just go 2-1 the next few weeks. I'll know how realistic it is that they're going to beat Kansas City. Yeah,
actually, that you're making that factor actually makes me think like, damn, losing to Kansas City becomes a lot more like likely now. But I think I would pick the Niners prematurely right now, depending on how they look right now. Look, they'll still beat them. I just don't think it'll be like blow them with start for the moment the kickoff starts to the final quarterback kneel down, and it's going to be like 47-10 or whatever. I think the Falcons will make a quarter or even a half where it's going to be like, look, they're fighting out there a little bit. I'm not saying it's going to be a one-score close. I think the Niners will probably win like 28-14 or something like that. So, I mean, that's still a pretty good game. You win by 2 scores or more. It should be a game. If they lose this game, that's a little bit inexcusable. I don't really care about the injuries or anything like that. You guys should beat them. But I do think the Falcons will make it more of a game than the Panthers did.
So I think it's interesting. I'm on this road trip out here, and I'm following the Niners, and I have a rental car, and I don't know this part of the country. So you go to Charlotte, and then the Niners play in Atlanta the next. So Atlanta is southwest of Charlotte.
Right.
The Greenbrier is due north of Charlotte. So I drove 4 hours north to come here, and then tomorrow I'm going to start my trip back southwest to Atlanta tomorrow night. Why would the Niners go north for a game that's south? They could be in Atlanta right now, but no, they want to be in West Virginia. From Kyle Shanahan's perspective, why do you think West Virginia is more appealing than Atlanta? To me, it's really obvious. I mean, there are no distractions up here, right? Like nothing you can do at night. You know, no Instagram celebrities you could call or sneak around with, or no rappers that you might know. I'm just nothing. Absolutely nothing. They could go. You can go ATVing.
Got in trouble in the hotel. What city was that?
That was Tampa.
All right, Tampa's more livelier than Greenbrier.
That's true. Every place is more lively than Greenbrier. Nothing against Greenbrier, but what's funny is it's a really nice, swanky resort. And when you get there, it says Greenbrier, America's Resort. I'm like, says who? It's really America's Resort? Why? Because you wrote that. So it's America's Resort. Anyway.
That's a good ass point right there for sure. Because
yeah,
at first I was gonna say because the weather.
A week in Atlanta. Good luck. Yeah, good luck. That's the problem. You remember when the Niners were in the Super Bowl with Harbaugh? That Super Bowl, no, it was New Orleans, wasn't it? It was New Orleans. New Orleans. No, so they played the NFC Championship game in Atlanta, and was that when Cap and Gore and Crabtree got caught going into Hooters? Anyway.
You can get a Hooters anyway at the time. I think they're extinct.
That's true. But I thought they got caught by TMZ going into a strip club, whether it was before the not that that's a big deal, but as a coach, if you're in New Orleans or Atlanta for a week, you're like, oh God, good luck. What are you gonna do? Yeah.
No, there is more temptation for sure. I mean, that's why nothing ever happens here with these guys. Because I mean, like, look, the nightlife here is cool, but it's not like Atlanta cool. I mean, come on, especially with these guys who none of them are really from here. They're probably from other places that are much better. So I can.
You talking about the South Bay or the Bay?
Was that?
You're talking about the South Bay or the Bay?
Oh no, I'm talking about the Bay as a whole.
Okay, here's the thing: like, if you're a player and you wanted to like do nightlife, remember when Reuben Foster would get held up at gunpoint outside of that spot in Union Square in San Francisco? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you got to go to San Francisco. Otherwise, like if you live in, I mean, I've never gone to the clubs in San Jose, but I probably would skip that.
Look, to me, they're cool, but I'm talking about these players since they're from like other areas that most likely have better nightlives. Like Bay Area nightlife is a little overrated. I like it. I have friends that like it, but I feel like if you go other places, look, I'm saying compared to like Atlanta, it's like more like come on, there's more low hanging fruit than just like around here. Do I really want to? It's.
But I feel like I'm at that age where when I go into a club or anything like it, I instantly feel like the old dude in there. I'm like. Like I'm more at home really now at like a nice quiet bar where I can talk to the bartender. That's what I'm looking for. If it's really loud, it's like, okay, there's a bunch of people in their 20s and I have gray hair and I look stupid.
That's why I like going to the breweries. That's why I tell you like, let's go to the breweries.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to burn down the thing. But I will say, I mean, Brandon Ayuk might like it because I had a friend who was at a Valencia room. He saw Brandon Ayuk there like in the off season. Well, not off season, maybe during training camp or something like that.
Oh, you snitching on him, man. Come on.
Dude, everyone already tweeted that. Everyone knows about it. There was a video, I think.
Oh, okay. Flav says, don't like the way the line looks at all this week. I think it comes down to field goal injury is a big deal. The betting line. The betting line. The latest on him is that he wasn't practicing today. He was running on the side field, and they signed a kicker to the practice squad. So that kind of sounds like a hedge to me. Let's give.
Dome, is it really that much of a concern for a field goal as much as it would be elsewhere?
I don't. Which knee is it that he messed up? Right or left? See, if his right knee is in a.
Because if you're kicking it sucks, and your plant leg, you need them both like strong.
They're both. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, can you really play less than 100? Can you kick a 45, 50-yard field goal if you're compromised?
Do you think he's gonna play? I don't think he's gonna play.
I don't know.
I don't think he's gonna play.
That's a good question. So if you have, to Flav's point, if you have no Gould, Gold. I always call him Gould. If you have no Gold, no Bosa, no Ward, no Mosley, I mean, all of a sudden, it's not the same team. It's not the same team at all. Now, the Falcons are terrible, but they're still an NFL team, and the Niners have beaten themselves. When they lose, they beat themselves. So I guess, one of these backups could be put in that position. Let's see. Good point, Flav.
But look, I was going to say the Falcons beat them last time on the road here in Santa Clara, but that was a better Matt Ryan, better thrower, and Julio freaking Jones was still Julio freaking Jones.
That's true.
Going on everyone.
That's true. I guess I just don't think much of Marcus Mariota. Seems like he's fragile, really fragile. I mean, even with the Niners are going to rough him up.
He's just hella fast. That's where I really think the dynamic, just the running game dynamic. And look, they lose some running power luster with Cordell Patterson gone, but I just think because you still have that Mariota dynamic and the other running backs who are decent, that there could be like some plays where it's like, okay, like we had a bad drive or 2 or 3. Let's circle back and see how we can stop that. And I think that's where they get the most of their points to get to like 10 to 14 or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I can't help but notice that they were right in the game with the Bucs at the very end and had that.
The refs not. Because look, the Niners I think are a little better than the Bucs at least, but that defense is still legit. I think that's where Atlanta. I think it could come down to it is the energy. If the Falcons are going to be locked in, we just talked about the Niners being locked in. What are the Falcons? Because look, you're on the road, you're going against a good team, a division team. You get up for that game. The Niners are a good team too, but I wouldn't say it's 100% the same. And you kind of just gave it your all in the week before. You could be. That's another aspect to look back. Maybe I'm just spewing, but that's something I think that does matter in terms of like actual. But are you awake for this game? Are you locked in? Are you focused?
And it seems like the Falcons' defense has done well. I mean, Grady Jarrett's done well against the Niners before.
That's the real concern. AJ Terrell, good corner.
The Niners don't have a good offensive line. I mean, Trent Williams is hurt. Aaron Banks didn't practice today. There's that. So David Baker's not related to Dusty. That's good to know. So I know I've asked you that a million times. Ray Ban says an injury was bound to happen with Robbie Gould on kickoffs. Isn't that why they drafted Mitch Wishnowsky? Because he tackles. What happened to his big hits? Well, what happened was, that's true, but they felt that him taking kickoffs was taken away from his punting ability, so they made a decision. Yeah, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo can do the kickoffs, or Kyle Juszczyk. He's a weapon.
Juszczyk.
Yeah. Niner Gang Wolfcat says, let's blow AT out so bad we get Purdy some reps. Purdy got a rep. He took one play. He had the kneel down. It was a good kneel down. Joey Mellon says, when was the last time when the Niners lost a game without actually beating themselves? The Super Bowl. I don't know.
They beat themselves in that game too.
No, they didn't. You think they did?
I think they got beat and they beat themselves at the same time. I think it was both.
Yeah, I mean, like they went away from the run game. It felt like, it felt like
I think it was like Mahomes, perfect loss. Like the greats overcame you and Mahomes and Andy, and you didn't help yourself either.
That's a good point. That's true. David Baker says, but I did see Dusty and Willie play at the stick. Well, that's
sick.
I never saw him play. Forever. That's tight. Falcons play hard and close with the best of them. Yeah, that's true. And the Niners are like, it's like the B team Niners this week. They're missing 9 starters. Let's go through it real quick. Trey Lance, Elijah Mitchell, although the replacements for those guys are both really good. Trent Williams, all 4 defensive linemen, 1 linebacker, 1 free safety, 1 corner. It's 10 guys. I might be missing. And Robbie Gould. That's 11 guys. Yikes.
Robbie Gould.
That's crazy.
Too, because now if the game ever comes close and you have like some stalled out drives, which we've seen this offense stall out drives plenty of times this season, just because they played good against the Panthers doesn't mean that's going to be them going forward. That's why are they going to click? So imagine like instead of running it down from 40 yards, now you're first to go for it instead of taking like you're possibly leaving 3 to 12 points on the table.
It's funny, like George Kittle said today, really, like the defense hasn't given up 20 points yet this year, so they just have to score 21 points. Well, I mean, that's
not the right attitude, man.
That's not the attitude this week because this is not the same defense. You could certainly give up. I mean, the Falcons, hold on. They scored 26 week 1, 27 week 2, and 27 week 3, and 23 week 4. So they could put up 20 on the Niners B team defense. The Niners offense better step up this week because they're going against a terrible defense. A terrible defense. The Niners need to actually score more than 21 points this week. This is going to be a very interesting game. I'm raising my eyebrow because of the interest that I have in this JFF says, Grant, call me Juan. My question is, those sideline throws and not up the middle throws are coming from Walsh book like we asked 2 weeks ago. Call me Juan. All right, Juan, I'll call you Juan. I don't know where they came from. I don't think they came from Walsh. I think they came from quality control. I heard there was a guy in the quality control that told him, Kyle, can't keep forcing these passes over the middle. And he was like, okay, word, bet. That's what he said.
I'm just happy the offense came alive so we don't get overreaction Grant today.
That's my favorite, Grant. Jack Jackson says, where's Danny Gray and Jordan Mason? Watch out, Jackson. With Bosa out, Jackson going to get more opportunities. Dwelly's still hurt. No, Dwelly's okay. Danny Gray had an illness today. He can't stay healthy. I don't understand.
But even if he was healthy, I don't think he has a role once.
No.
He doesn't have a role when Trey Lance got out. That's it. He doesn't have a role.
No.
Done.
And then Mason, I'd like him to be the short yardage back, but Kyle is just being stubborn. So
Mason's
we'll have to write.
Dead until his running backs become out of commission due to injuries. That's it.
Yeah.
It's his only value, unfortunately.
All right. So now that we talk about it, I actually feel like this game against the Atlanta is going to be surprisingly close. So we'll see.
I could see it being where it's close for a good portion of the game, and the Niners just run away from it because I don't think the Falcons are a team who are going to start to finish can keep up with it, and eventually the better team will win and pull away. But yeah, number one is the offense not going to shoot themselves in the foot. We've seen plenty of times they do that against bad teams. So if you rule that out of the way, okay, then they should win. Now it's about, can the offense, be even what it was last week? Because if they do that, they'll be good. Because I think the B team 49ers will be fine in terms of 20 or less points.
If they're missing all four of their starting defensive linemen, this game could get interesting. But that being said, I think they have. I mean, what would their starting defense be? What would their starting defense be? It would be Drake Jackson, Kerry Hyder, Kevin Givens, and Ridgeway. That's a good defensive line. That's a good D line.
Come back. Is tomorrow injured? What's going on? He's still
Kamoko Toure, he's there.
Okay,
they have good players. They have Akeem Spence. They should win, even with these injuries. But
I think if you're just the defense, it's pretty much just don't break contain on Mariota. Because look, Mariota is fast, man. I watched.
He is.
You have to watch. I'm like, Jesus, is he Lamar fast? Almost, to be honest.
He is quick. He just can't stay healthy.
He scrambles good. That's why I see their offense really getting their most plays of their big plays or even any success is when he scrambles, or if he just breaks the pocket, he's running and he just takes one. He just tosses one for 8 yards and he's open. That's all I'm worried about. That's why I think it's going to be a scrappy game.
I feel like the one weakness of the wide nine is that it's so predicated on guys getting up the field that they sort of aren't really reading and reacting scrambles. You know what I'm saying?
That's why he appreciates the Mosley and Ward being his edge. He uses them as his real edges to really fill for those edges who are going up.
David Baker says people talking like this could be a trap game. What is a trap game? A trap game is a game that you
overlook the opponent. And you're coming off a high of against.
That's what it is. Usually you're coming off a big game and it's you just beat your main rival and the next game is nothing. It's 2019 when they beat New Orleans. Huge win. Everyone's like, oh, damn, the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl. Next week they lose to the Falcons at home. And they're like, yeah, we were flat. Well, why? Because you felt like you proved yourself last week. You didn't have the same level of urgency or whatever. Yeah, it does. But I don't think that coming off a win against Carolina, the Niners are no.
They're still 3-2.
No, the trap game would be you beat Kansas City next week. Everyone's like, oh, shit, the Niners are the best team in the league. And then, boom, you lose to a team that you've dominate the next week. That's the trap game. Mm-hmm. All right, that's the show. Thanks for watching. Sorry about my internet. I'm going to go talk to the good people at the front desk and say, what the heck? What the heck? Thanks, Jose.
They're listening. They hate you right now for all your cussing about them.
I'll see you in Atlanta, hopefully. Peace, guys.